Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I just want to explain with MIT, with algorithms. Algorithms. This book, I would recommend it. Okay. I'm going to go on a rant a little bit, but it's just a warning. This is not only for educational purpose. This is what you call in the business a warning because I've seen certain things. So, research and development. The Kodak, this camera system. The Kodak. See? Kodak. The Canon camera. The Sony recorder. The Sony recorder that they have, like the Samsung recorders that they have. I'm just going to explain this as simple as possible. And it's the same thing with Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man with Steve Harvey. This is a very good book. It's all related to this. It has to do, ladies and gentlemen, with the topic of mind control. Now I'm going to explain this. There's a person by the name of Harry Houdini that was a magician a long time ago. One of my ancestors' relatives. Now, in Sitar law, during Abrahamic times, Prophet Abraham wrote a book on, it was the art of healing that has to do with Sitar law. That's related. It's a blue book like this. I'm going to get it and order it from eBay. So, in the book, it talks about that even with the Quran. It talks about the jinn and things related to that. During Prophet Solomon's time, I want to speak about Prophet Solomon, and I am going to explain this as best as I can with this book, which has to do with the Songs of Solomon and etc., with the Book of Solomon. And I don't want to open up and read certain sections because that's not important. Solomon practiced magic. Okay? It's in the books. So to all the people in the psychiatry division, I hope you're prepared for what I'm about to explain. There are such things as hypnosis. It exists. Where you take a device like this and go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, where you can hypnotize somebody. And there are magicians out there that do that for a living. One of my friend Carl and one of my friend Anthony does that for a living. But they're forensic people. They do hypnosis, but they're psychiatrists. So don't get me wrong. Dr. Carl and Dr. Anthony do that, but it has to do with forensics. In the Vatican library system, in the apostolate library system, there was devices like that are out there. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story of my recruitment process that has to do with my hat. So I was in the Belmore Fire Department, and I was a junior in the Belmore Fire Department. And Belmore Fire Department is a volunteer organization, but it's not really a volunteer organization. It's the same thing as the AmeriCorps and the Peace Corps. The Peace Corps is considered a part of that volunteer organization, but it's not a volunteer organization. It's a part of what you call paid charity. It has to do with things related to college and things related to training and etc. So, I have a relative named Uncle Alex, not my cousin, a relative, and another relative named Uncle Matt. Those people are specialized people. They're the people in the Men in Black program. I'm going to explain that. The Men in Black program exists. They work for those organizations. They're my parents' age. There's certain people I met in the Gaetian family and certain people I met in the Grantner family when I went to college. Not just at Cornell University or Columbia. I met them at Yale University and I met them at Princeton University. Because at Yale, I studied foreign language, and that's something I'm going to bring up later in the topic, which has to do with the Aramaic and Arabic language. So, It's very important that I say this nicely. You cannot play the land. The earth belongs to God. Belongs to Yahweh and Elohim's relatives. Lord God and his people own this land. They designed everything. I'm going to just put the AC unit on. Hold on. So, I had this Newton's Telecom Dictionary. This I used in Yale University for things that have to do with forensics and research and topics related to that stuff. So, my Uncle Charlie got me, drove me over to these universities. So, the recruitment process for this Men in Black program, or a thing like Warehouse 13, that exists. This is why I'm explaining Dr. Carl and Dr. Anthony, because would be my friends' relatives. They're older than me. I didn't get recruited with them. I know who they are because they had this job fair thing. See, I'm going to explain this. And I'm not afraid of explaining. The Secret Service and the Marshals people, not what you call your version of the Marshals, but they have a version of the Marshals that deal with serious crimes, that explain this in the Holy Scriptures during Solomon's time, Prophet Solomon, where they built organization that's like Jewish, Christian, Muslim, like the Holy Scriptures, the Holy Quran. I'll show you that later. But they built things where they investigate supernatural crimes. Let me explain. They investigate things that deal with supernatural crimes, where it's poisonings, things that the police department can't explain, things that the FBI cannot explain. And some priests and rabbis do things like that. They do investigations. And there are councils that deal with this stuff. And that's where I do have to explain this with Dr. Rabbi Mark Rubenstein and Dr. Memphis Friedman. Those people explain this to me in the schools. So I am aware of this. So people can get hypnotized by medication, because some of these medications, ladies and gentlemen, like cocaine, like marijuana, they have certain properties in them. Like LSD. They have certain properties to them that they can do a version of mind control with medication. And it's dangerous. That's why God says to not, with spirits, like wine, like drinking alcohol. It has spirits meaning demonic things in it. It's dangerous. And it has to do with, halal diet and kosher diet, and even a Christian diet, because they're all related to each other. Has to do with Zatar law, the Torah, and the Quran. Because these people don't, in the Holy Quran, they don't drink. They don't do any drinks because they know about these jinn people, and jinn people are early version of what you called demonic people, demonic entities, and that's something that priests had done exorcisms and things, and psychiatrists and psychologists, they can't explain that. A person gets possessed. So I saw a video of this Candace Owens and another woman, and she's doing this like this. That seems to me very bizarre. It doesn't seem normal. See, I met this guy. His name is G. I guess his nickname or whatever it is, it's G33. I'll just use G33 for the time being. Numerology. So I'm going to explain something to you, and that has to. I'm going to just explain to you. GG33. I'll give you the name of the person as time goes on. I'll just give you. I'll probably get his name. Okay, Gary. Gary. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Certain things Gary has correct. Certain things Gary does not have correct. So you need to understand something. I don't follow his techniques. I understand numerology, but I don't follow those techniques. And that has to do with things related to the Men in Black program. That has to do with some of these books, which is related to this. Hold on, everybody. There was a professor I had, that this Judith person, there's a book like this that I don't want to go see this person right here, Judith. Well, this person's relative was a professor that teaches things related to that at those universities, and it's research and development related. It has to do with herbs and holistic medicine. Has to do with agriculture, horticulture, the study of water and things related to that. That has to do with algorithms. And that David Icke and Billy Carsons II explained when I was there when they did guest lecturing and etc. That you can't, with the Men in Black program and the Warehouse 13, all these places, because the Warehouse 13 is related to the Secret Service. It's a council or an organization that's secret. Yes, I can explain certain things. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just explaining. So there is recruitments out there, or when I was in the universities, there were job fairs. But for some reason, I met a person. I'm going to explain his name. His name is John Abraham Gaeta. He's not me. He's a relative of mine. And he's what you call, on that show, he's what you call a Doctor Who person. Doctor Who means he's the actual person. He exists. He's what you call a celestial being. He's immortal. He's Elohim's biological son. Elohim, or Jonathan, as he was called, had a biological son like this. And a version of that person, Jonathan Gaeta, it would be like Joshua Christ. Or John the Baptist, who he's also called John Gardner. That's one of my other relatives, and they were similar to those people. Now, Marcus Alexander Gardone is another person. He's old, and he's what you call a celestial being. He's old. They're immortal. They did something happen in the past related to this book being designed, where during Prophet Solomon's time, they had to make a version of what you call a council that deals with time and space, that has to deal with time travel, that deals with Zatar law and the Holy Quran, because they go by a different calendar system. And that's why I joined. Not that I joined a faith, I just joined a group that understands that Zatar law and the Jewish mystical arts is very important to understand. And that's what Rabbi Mark, or Dr. Mark, wanted me to understand. And not just me, Cardinal Timothy Dolan wanted me to understand as well. Because there are things that has to do with your soul. A soul is like a circle that has to do with your soul. That's very dangerous. It's like Steve basically explained that he was around a lot of these comedians, and in this book and some of these books he talks about, especially Dr. Phil McGraw, he explains this, where he was around people and they had a weird presence to them. It was very strange. And he would say, things like to his wife at the time, I think her name was Marjorie. I don't understand who this person is. And they would have influence over the show. And they would have what you call creative control. And that has to do with editing. And that's something that my relative John, or Marcus, explained to me. Because Marcus deals with things that has to do with the Magnus Macardus. And I have one of those books with the Magnus Macardus. And that explains how books, you need to keep books, and how it's important not to touch tarot cards or any of these Ouija boards, and how it's dangerous. And that's something that psychiatrists and psychologists do not understand, because it has to do with things dealing with occult philosophy, and that has to do with neurological things. Certain things in life, orthopedics, doctors cannot explain either, because certain things that rabbis and priests and even imams taught me, God is a lot more powerful than any of these beings combined, and God is just not one person. He's not a he or a she, ladies and gentlemen. He's what you call he's a family. They're all family people. God is it's not a monotheistic type of religion, meaning it's not just one person. There's people involved. Joshua's mother, Mary. There was a Mary, Queen of Peace. People don't recognize this stuff, but I'm trying to explain it. Mary was Joseph's wife at one point. Elohim had a wife named Margaret. That would be his Elohim's name was Jonathan. Adonai Shaddai was named Anthony. He had a wife. Jophi Rapha, who's Jacob Arthur. That was his other name. They had wives. So it's not like the universe was designed by 4 women and 4 men. Not men like you think, but godly people that existed, that transitioned the whole universe. And they're mathematicians. And they have explained to me, and the Dead Sea Scrolls are books like this, and Billy Carson's and some of his relatives, or not some of his relatives, but some of those people that he calls relatives, which are close colleagues at the scientific community, explained this to me in books form. And they told me what books to look at. So he gave me advice. Relative meaning close to a friend, like a blood friend. That's what I mean. And that's something that you need to understand. Alan Turing, the Enigma, explains things related to that. And that's why I'm warning you guys with the Antarctica research. Do not touch any of that stuff with time travel, because that's Elohim's son's designs. You can't take those designs. Let me explain something to you about John George Trump with the Nikola Tesla. That stuff is in my grandfather's handwriting. He went to university. That stuff was designed by George, my grandfather. He designed that stuff. He did what you call graphics, and I saw his handwriting. I asked my father, because my grandfather passed away, and at a young age. But I saw his handwriting. He had handwriting at my grandmother's and grandfather's house, and I matched it. And I used a specialized device that the Secret Service or the Marshals used to check if it matches, and it matched. And that's something that you can't explain that. You can't explain things in life to John, because John doesn't know everything, but John knows enough that you're messing around with certain things out there. You know who I'm talking to. I'm doing this message out of respect, because I'm not playing games. You cannot touch anything with monster entities or alien entities that deals with objects, like a book. Like a book like this. You don't know what is in the book. That's why I explained with Jerusalem, with the Jerusalem, Israel, with the wall. They're all Palestinian, but there was civil war going on. You're dealing with bacteria. You're dealing with viruses. It's all related to orthopedics. It's all related to pathology, the study of diseases. All related. And I'm in the club. I'm in the club. Jordan Maxwell and Jake Ehrlich Sr. had helped me get into the club. I don't know how I got into the club, but I got into the club. My grandfather George and Edward, my grandfather, which I God rest his soul, two very good people, got me into the club, ladies and gentlemen. I'm in the club. I've been in the club for far too long. So it's not that I'm afraid of explaining anything. I'm just going to explain to you about my best friend James and I. That's a version of that Joshua person. James and I were in Europe. And I'm going to do a letter about this as well. You cannot have me listed when in the Peace Corps, ladies and gentlemen, when I was doing stuff related to Doctors Without Borders. The Doctors Without Borders, I was a sponsor. The nursing union, I was like a sponsor. I'm going to explain things related to that has to do with the World Health Organization and the World Economic Front. Or forum, or whatever you want to call it. They didn't do anything wrong, ladies and gentlemen. They did the correct things. But there was things that were stolen from them that they don't even understand. And a lot of those people said to me, why is the handwriting you have matching cases that have to do with the world courts? You know, Gary met Andrew and Tristan Tate, and they did a challenge where they challenged each other. So I'm just going to explain this to the hopefully I try and do the very best I can with the Illuminati, and I'm not, don't shoot the messenger with this, but your organization had stuff stolen. There are funds that you have that is secret, that is stolen, that I tried answering some of my relatives' questions. But it's not, they don't want to silence me to the Illuminati people. They don't want you to touch any of that stuff. Because it has to do with Barclay Bank and these banks and Apple and Google. And that's something that I got recruited into. The Men in Black started looking into these things. The Warehouse 13 started looking into these things. That's one of their organizations. They exist because you're dealing with alien and monster technology that nobody understands. Not a psychiatrist, not a psychologist, not a neurologist, not an orthopedic. Nobody understands that. We don't understand. I don't even understand it. But you don't play games with objects, and that's something I'm trying to explain about Jerusalem and the Vatican with the library system and Antarctica. You're doing research and development that God punishes people, and that has to do with Prophet Solomon, because he was forced into doing this stuff, but he was doing stuff that's to me illegal. You're not allowed to be touching any of that stuff. That's dangerous. That's a sin. Or in the Muslim community, that's a haram. That's considered a sin. You're not supposed to touch anything with Ouija boards or anything, or making a circle type of ritual, whether it's angelic or demonic. You don't do any of that stuff. And that's what Solomon and these books explain in this cipher and then in Tarak. And that's something that's very important. You need to understand something, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot play games with any of this stuff. And you've been playing games. You can't, I'm going to say this to the Illuminati community. You can't control everything because you're not God. And even if you're a celestial being, because there is, in United States and in these other countries, there is celestial court that exists for monsters and aliens. And that's where the Men in Black program exists, and that's where Warehouse 13 exists. And they're secret organizations. And that's where I say to them, I did all I could do. It's up to you guys now to get involved. And James and I was in Europe. You can't have us listed with the Peace Corps or any of those organizations because I don't know what the Peace Corps did exactly. I don't know what they did. Because Gary and some of those people, you're a part of the snake community, and the snake community, I don't mean to be rude to you. Snake community, I know what the snake community is about. You could fill in the bubbles, as they say. I don't do anything with snake community. Just like I don't, ladies and gentlemen, James and I were around these people that were sugar mommies or sugar daddies or sugar aunties or sugar uncles. We were around these people, James and I, when we were in college. We were best friends. And the BDSM community with this these things. Don't look this up, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm just explaining to you. Do not test or play God. And that's something that Archangel Samael tried to do. He tried to harness the universe. And that's related to Prophet Solomon and some of these. She tried to harness the universe. And that's why she got banished. And she wasn't the only person. There was a being prior to that I know about. And that person's immortal. You can't do that. That's illegal. She tried to control everything. You can't control everything. It's impossible. Do I blame Archangel Samael? No, I do not blame Archangel Samael. But she didn't understand. There are things that is above science, that is above magic, that you can't touch. That's like Yahweh and Elohim or God's territory that he deals with. And it has to do with the earth. Is the earth designed as a circle? I want you to think about that. Just think about it. No matter what side you choose, is the earth designed as a circle? Because it's got to be designed as some sort. Can't be designed as a triangle. Can't be designed as a cube or a square. It was designed as a circle. Is the sun designed as a circle? Just think about that for a second. Is there such things as light and darkness in the universe? It's like doing a patient assessment. You're doing the ABCs and Ds that has to do with EMT and related to patient assessment. James and I dealt with a lot of people. And in a hospital setting and in a court setting, you can't lie to those people. You can't make up stories. And that's what some of these people are doing. They're making lies and they're spewing BS. You can't steal. Because you're dealing with a person that has like what you call a camcorder camera system or a video camera system of everything, and he knows what you're doing. He's aware of it, and that's the Lord God. He's aware of it. I can't lie to those beings. And their hierarchy. You're dealing with things that he's outside the realm. And that's something that prophets, prophetess, saints, apostles, anything related to that, they understand that more than John does. And that's why I always read the Holy Scriptures. Because there are things that I don't even understand to this day. But what I do understand is you're touching things that you're not allowed to be touching because it's dangerous. I'm just giving you a fair warning. That's all I'm saying. You can't list people and do things wrong. So I'm going to just ask you guys, what exactly are you doing about the problems in our society? Because it seems to me all you guys are doing, because Patch Adams and some of these people in the past, like Martha Rogers and many of these doctors, you can't cure a disease with just medication. Let me repeat that. You can't cure a disease with just taking medication. It has to be resolved by some other measures besides just taking pills, because pills are just temporary things. It just covers the symptoms. That's all it does. That's why there's acupuncture. That's why there's chiropractic. That's why there's massage, and there's holistic or alternative medicines that are effective. Even stuff you eat, ladies and gentlemen, or stuff you drink. Because some of that stuff can help you. Some of this holistic medicine that for food and stuff can cure cancer and these diseases, and it doesn't get explained till now. That's all I'm saying. That's why you have to be careful what you take, because certain people have allergies and allergy-related conditions, and that's why I'm very careful. So, all I'm saying is James and I and my friends are aware of all this stuff that's going on, and what you're doing right now, by you not actually speaking to certain people that have to do with accounts and lawyers, the accounts department, the law department, the financial department, the treasury department, what you guys are doing to me and to James and to my friends and my relatives is completely wrong. Because I'm telling you something. You're testing God's boundaries. If God says that a certain person is supposed to come out, or like a prophet or a prophetess, or not a Messiah, someone like a Messiah, and you're testing his patience, he's going to smite the universe. He does that. Don't think he doesn't do that, because in Prophet Solomon's time, he did that stuff. Don't think he didn't do that. That's why I don't touch magic or grimoires or any of that stuff. And some of these psychiatrists should understand. That's why John doesn't... I stay away from some of these people. I don't go near criminals. That's why I don't touch gift cards or any of that stuff. James and I don't. Two rules we have. We didn't have a social media account. We didn't have a social media account, and we do not touch gift cards or anything with Bitcoin, because there's certain things with that where we are aware of that we don't touch. So I hope this video gets your attention. Take care, guys. Have a pleasant and wonderful day.